We're going to move into a discussion and to look at or to discuss some of the contributions we've been listening to over the last half an hour or so. I think, Eva, we have a very tough task. And I know you have perhaps a slight bias in one area, but I also have a bias as well. So I'm sure we'll come to that at some point in the conversation. But we've heard from three hugely innovative organizations, each one of whom drives impact and has significant aspirations and ambitions in their sector. And each one of them should be commended for the work they do. So there's not one winner, there are many winners. And I think that's one of the benefits of this this cohort and the people we're bringing together. So, but is there anything in particular you want to highlight? I mean, I've got a couple of comments, but I don't want to take over the stage. I'll let you go first. Any sort of highlights from the three presentations that we've listened to?
Yes, I mean, you're totally right that what we've seen is the great diversity of solutions that help us to tackle the challenges we are facing when it comes to urbanization and smart settlement. And at the same time, the presentations reassured me of three believings, I would say. First one is that it's not enough to have smart people and smart companies, but we need an ecosystem. So it's a matter of building strong partnerships and finding the right partners to implement solutions and to make them sustainable and to get the most out of it. The second thought is that all the solutions show that we are dealing with complex matters, and the good solutions have an holistic approach. And that brings me directly to my third point, that technology is a tool that helps us, and all three solutions make use of technological solutions and opportunities, and CREE is using digitalization to build the digital twin and to design interfaces for all the partners who are involved in projects, and the same is true for the application of Machli and for the Wicked Lab. And that's why I believe we have to invest in applying technological solutions to tackle the big challenges we are facing, and we have to invest in establishing good partnerships and in formats like the WSA or WSA, where the pioneers from all over the world get together and can share their ideas and their experiences. And so I hope that we will be able to build that ecosystem together that is needed to make progress in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Would you agree on that?
I think you make some very good points. I'd just like to pick some of those points out and then open the discussion out to everyone. I think that what I particularly like is your reference to twins, going on to digital twins. It's very interesting that with a number of these organizations, you could model, or if you like, solve one problem, but at the same time build an ecosystem to solve another problem. I mean, I can say to you without hesitation, I was at a think tank yesterday in education that's looking to structure how education can be, how do I put it, brought into the 21st century and be remodeled. And there's no bigger challenge, in my opinion, because you're dealing with hugely conservative organizations with a small c, and the ability to drive change is, well, it's easier to push water uphill than to change that. But when you look at what CREE are doing in terms of their advocacy and looking to bring real world situations in, I think that is one of the key components of CREE. I think that is something that I recognized when I looked particularly at the video, but also when I looked at the website, looked at others. I think it is, apart from their day job, I think they have a platform that could have huge impact in other areas. When you look at the project in India with fishermen, I mean, That is, how do I put this respectfully, a more raw project. So that's using out-of-the-pocket technology, which is not particularly sophisticated, but is in everybody's hands or everybody's pocket or everyone's capability, and driving even the early stages of driving this information, which hopefully can make fishing safer and make it even more efficient and deal with sustainability arguments. Once you build that network, that can be expanded into many, many other areas. And there are some examples with WeFarm, for example, which is a farming app, which does a similar sort of job. And I would encourage my colleague to look at WeFarm as a template of what can be evolved. So I think that's interesting. And I'd like to pick up on your third point, or your first point, actually. It's very interesting in the world we live in today, and I mean literally today, that collaboration is now essential rather than nice to have. And I don't want to refer to political problems going on in Eastern Europe. That would be inappropriate for me to bring into this conversation. But there is a consequence of this. And I think the consequence, when we look at it, hopefully in an optimistic and a positive way, is that there has never been a better time of countries and organizations and government organizations talking to each other, having a focus on what is to the benefit of the world generally and coming together in collaborative ways. And I think that's our responsibility at WSA, to build those collaborations and build those networks, and to understand that we're not working in a silo. We are all working independently on our different projects and businesses, but actually there's an ecosystem where we come together holistically to collaborate. There's even greater strength and greater returns in terms of matching the goals and aspirations that we all have. I mean, does anybody want to comment on that? Is that a theme that we're comfortable with, or do we just want to be billionaires and hugely successful entrepreneurs? Well, I would point out that's what I want, but I'm just saying to you, you're much nicer people than me, so maybe you have a different philosophy. Emily, I'm going to push you. Do you comment? Do you want to be a billionaire, or do you want to save the world, or a bit of both? You're on mute, mate, Emily. Emily, you're on mute.
Thank you. You'd think I'd have this figured out after this period we've just lived through.
They put me on mute all the time. That's another piece of the jigsaw. But anyway, please comment.
I want to be able to sustainably continue to do high impact work. So making lots of money is not the motivator. In fact, we're a social enterprise, an Australian social enterprise, and so we trade for a mission. And I come from a classic science and technology commercialization background, where you are trading to maximize profit for your shareholders. And sometimes there are odds. In a social enterprise, when you're trading for your mission, you're trying to scale for impact and you're trying to maximize your impact. So we've had, my co-founder and I, Dr. Sharon Zivkovic, we've had many a discussion in the early days where I just wanted to be able to scale the technology and get it into as many people's hands as possible, but we had to make sure that we were doing that in a way that ensured we were doing that impactfully. So no, I don't think the richest people in the world have shown us any great standards to live by. We don't need to get to the moon. We need to make sure that the one world that we have, we can pass on for generations and generations. And back to your point about ecosystems and collaboration, that is the exact reason why we do what we do, and the tool supports ecosystems to transition and work better together in a targeted way and to measure those changes over time.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I could pick an argument with you on some of those subjects, but probably we need a separate conversation for that at another time. I'm going to go to Wolfgang, because I'm assuming, Wolfgang, you are more aligned with me that you're building a profit center for you and your partners, but you're doing it in such a manner that also deals with social impact and the education piece that I spoke to. So would you like to comment on collaboration and digital twins and that and the opportunities there?
Absolutely. So first of all, I feel so home in this WSA community, and I want to also congratulate the others. And I was really thrilled by the presentations and what kind of impact they show in their areas. But what is our contribution? So we in the building industry, we have very different challenges that we address. and we have so many different stakeholders in what we do. And at the end, we at CREE, we have one goal. We want to revolutionize this process. Of course, every breakthrough, the first thing you have to overcome is the gravel after you broke down the wall. And this is where we have to train ourselves at CREE, that we are always able to step over the gravel and to find new ways to make what we do even better every time we do it. What we do is we train people, we engage people, we partner with them, and we say, okay, be more effective, be clear of what you do. And sure, in construction, things needs to be paid, and things are super expensive in the construction industry. So this is why we have to always talk a lot to our partners, make them feel comfortable, and give and be like this safe haven for them as well. To say, okay, with us you can really deliver in time, sustainable, and for a better living and working environment for all of us. And this is very important for us.
There are some immediate challenges. I mean, when you look at the challenges of supply chain, for example, I'm sure this is something that you discuss on a daily, if not hourly basis. I mean, that's one of the big challenges. And again, although the supply chain problems are fairly obvious, I'm not convinced that supply chain problems are going to fall away very quickly. I think it could take a generation before the supply chains. And then when you look at the next generation of supply chains, you've got to look at sustainability, the ecology, the climate. These are all other challenges. So maybe it's a transitioning point. Maybe it's a pivoting point in terms of the supply chains we used previously and the supply chains we may use in the future could change in a radical way. Certainly, when I look to my colleague in India with the farm, with fishing and the farming resources, that has to be part of his philosophy. And so, do you want to pick up on that thread at all? But Arth, I'm going to go to
you. Yes.
Talk
so
about
we are also aiming at sustainability of this fishing. This one. So when one of the questions that you asked is how sensitive we are in terms of supporting the community in sustainable fishing. The advisory we send is within a range of 10 kilometers. I mean, within a range of 10 kilometers is something crucial for the development of marine resources. So as it consists of breeding grounds, coral ecosystem, artisanal fishing ground, etc. So what we tend to do is we tend to send advisories beyond this particular distance. So we have a distance of 20 kilometers, 50 kilometers, and 100 kilometers distance where potentially the fishermen try to go and catch fishing. And with regard to sustaining the with regard to improving access to the application, improving access to the this one, we are actually conducting a lot of on-ground initiatives where we are teaching the fishermen to use the application, use the mobile device as such. So often many of them are not used to the mobile phone and the technology that is available. So we are trying to impart some kind of digital literacy, whereas they can use the mobile device as such.
Excellent. Eva, I think you wanted to make a comment.
I'd like to raise a critical question when it comes to complexity, if I may.
Please.
Okay. Timber is I would say it's kind of a fashion. So, or if we deal with that complex topics, I think we often see kind of fashions. So now we are talking about timber as a sustainable resource, and we want to use it for making new fabrics, for building houses, for producing gas and becoming independent from the Russians, and for lots of other use cases. And we would need 10 times the woods that we have currently if we realized all that use cases. So I would be interested to hear whether Wicked Lab has a method to avoid that bullshit bingo, I would say, or that fashion topics, and whether CREE, for example, is aware of that complex interrelations and is looking at different use cases for their material as well, and taking it into account when they develop their strategy.
Wolfgang, do you want to make a comment? I think, no, Emily, by all means, if you'd like to go first, by all means.
No worries. I'll just jump in. So in terms of how the tool and the framework supports that, the wicked problem would be, sustainable use of wood supplies, and you would put a geographical boundary around that to be able to root it in place. So a place-based boundary. And then you're engaging with all the partners that are working on the different causal factors that are underpinning that particular wicked problem, and understanding all the projects and initiatives that are trying to tackle that. And then you would, through that engagement process, illuminate the complexity of that problem, align it to the framework within Wicked Lab's tool, and what you're doing is you're strengthening through that process the way those partnerships are working on tackling the problem. You're not creating solutions, you're strengthening the ecosystem. And so you're enabling the solution ecosystem to better tackle the problem. You're not designing solutions. I think of it as supporting the system to transition fast or accelerate the transition, rather than trying to create solutions that are hitting the ground. You're weaving the bits between.
But in that case, are you looking at historic data, or are you doing predictive analysis, or a combination of both?
What you're doing is imagine it's a heuristic, so it's a lens to be able to look at existing data, and then with those insights into the gaps, you are able to bring those stakeholders together to innovate around the gaps. So you're not modelling anything. The innovation exists in the opportunities for partners to come together, understand where the system is weak, where the system is functioning well, and what small changes can be made to support that whole system to transition in the direction that you want it to go. So towards, wood and sustainable farming of wood, or sustainable use of wood supplies.
Okay, but Eva brought up a subject earlier, which is one that I have a particular empathy with, is looking into twinning, into driving a twin. And to give you an example to many who might not know what I'm talking about, imagine a hospital with real patients and real doctors and real nurses, and imagine that they are under pressure to service and look after the patients within that hospital. And obviously they're making decisions and analysis and diagnostics on a hourly, every minute, even segments of minutes. So there's a whole ecosystem of data transfer and information and diagnostics going on. And respectfully, some of that is maybe not as efficient as it could be. And with computing power now, with AI, and again with quantum computing, which is not that far away from us, we have the ability of running a digital twin, which could have the same prognosis, the same information, the same data sets as actually is happening in real time in the hospital, and run other analysis in terms of, or let's say alternative analysis. And then because you have the ability to compute and to look deep into it, you take out tiredness and some of the characteristics that are human characteristics, and the ability to model alternatives. And I think what you're doing, Emily, plays very well to that digital twin capability. I think also, respectfully, what Wolfgang is doing plays well to supply chain management and digital twins. And I think we need to be thinking not just about our day job, but how the impact of what we're actually building and what we aspire to achieve can actually be used on an even broader basis. Does anybody want to pick up on that conversation? Eva, I look for some support now. You're nodding your head. help me with this. I'm not sure. I think people think I've gone crazy, and maybe I have. Who knows?
No, for us, the topic of typical digital twin is the topic of the twin is huge, because we want to know much more of our buildings and how people act in our buildings, how they feel in a building, and how the building itself feels at the end of the day. But here we are at a point where I want to go back to Eva's question about the fashion of wood and how timber is used. So we decided to create this timber hybrid system out of a research project where we said, okay, how in Central Europe would be the best way to build high, sustainable in an urban way. And the outcome was we use timber and we use concrete. And that was the outcome of that research project. And much more than the fact what material we use, we are focusing on the processes. What is the design for manufacturing? What is again, back to Ellen, what is the supply chain? How can we engage with people designing in a certain way and be already connected to the suppliers and the builders network, so that we also create local values for the people who then build it. So we don't ship stuff around the world. No, we tell them how to produce it and how to align it. And if they have to change something in the system, then they go back to our platform and share their ideas, their goals with us, and all the technicians, all the partners, contractors we have can together in an ideal world then find solutions for building sustainable prefabricated, for example, in Singapore, where we have a project, as well as here in Vorarlberg.
Okay, thank you for that. I've been told off in the chat channel I'm not doing my job properly, so I need to refer to a question from the audience, if I may. Gender equality. We have a female founder on the call, so that's a good start. We have a female domain expert on the call, so again, I'm delighted with that, because Eva's command of this sector is far greater than mine will ever be, so I'm grateful for her support in this conversation. But where are we from your companies in terms of gender equality? Where do we see those challenges around diversity? Do any of you want to comment on that particular question, please?
I can do that, because I'm super happy that I'm working with a team where we as many men as women in the team. As I mentioned before, from I guess 12 different countries, and this makes me super happy, because I'm as a father of a daughter, this is what drives me, that I can also create with what I do, not only a sustainable environment, but have a change in the work environment for my little one. Yeah, so this is very important for us, and it's very important for the whole company, CREE, and we really look into that, and are aware of what it is, because we are linked to an industry which is very male-dominated, and where it needs a lot of awareness in every step you do. And lucky that we have this awareness in our company, and we as well work on that awareness. And that's, thanks for the question. It was really good to have to.
I mean, I think, and again, it's an assumption which might be flawed, but I'm assuming that in the fishing community in India, that much of that fishing community is done by men. And
yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah. So, given the physical nature of work, the men are the forerunners of fishing. So often women, they don't take part in fishing. They don't venture into fishing, into sea and all. But women do play a major role in terms of once the men bring the fish catch to the shore. So after that, women take over that. They take a primary responsibility of marketing it. so they are in a way empowered and dealing with the market there. So whereas men, they don't play a major role in marketing fish. So in a way, no, the economic contribution of women is equally there in marine fisheries as well, which is not seen upfront anywhere.
But I assume there's another piece to this jigsaw as well, is that, you know, the physical challenges and climate and weather and tide and everything. You have families who are at home, and you have men who are out taking care of their employment, and sometimes the circumstances and knowledge is challenging, and to have better communication must be a very positive outcome for the community that you support.
True. Thanks.
I'd like to say something to the topic as well, as I think it is extremely important. When we look at the data, we have a very small amount of women in the digital technology sector. So when we look at the students all over Europe, I think it's 17% women in ICT studies. And it's the same when we look at the employees. I think we count about 20%. So there is a huge gender gap, and another big challenge that we have to tackle. And I even can build the bridge to the digital twin you want to talk about, Ellen. As I'm so happy to see that this tool is implemented in the construction sector, and there it enables us to take evidence-based decisions and to be more efficient. And I really have the vision that we can use that tool as well when we are talking not only about single buildings but about whole cities. But there we come to that complexity topic again, and we are talking about people. And if we train our machines and our algorithms with historical data, we must be aware that they reproduce our human biases. And to create algorithms that are unbiased is another huge challenge that we have to tackle, and where we have to look for smart solutions to avoid the biases in our IT infrastructure.
I think you're talking about a human and a technology challenge, Eva, and I think it's greater on the human side than it is maybe on the technology side. But let's not get into that debate quite yet. There's another question coming from the audience, and thank you for that, to do with basically the building sector, and to do with recycling of waste. And I think this is a really interesting question, certainly in terms of, you know, we have a company that works on the seas, and we all know about the challenges of pollution in the seas. We have an environment of rebuilding our cities, and this. So where does the recycling of waste and that particular piece fit into those ecosystems? Would either of you care to pick up on that subject?
So maybe I can say some little things about waste. We have to stop bringing waste to the production site. That at the very beginning, we have to stop creating waste. We have to reduce the amount of waste in the whole production and in the whole design process. I guess first we have to create the awareness for that. So this would be the first step to reduce this. I mentioned like there are 14% of waste brought to the construction site, and then you have to remove it again. So this is just packaging and stuff like that. So we have to get rid of that and find different technologies, ways and techniques to do so. And talking about the material as such, we are also working on that, like having material database about every project, so that we know what materials do we have in the building. And in the past, it was like, okay, there is some concrete, there is some glass, there is some aluminum, but nobody cared about it. So we care about it because we have topics like predictive maintenance, and we have values that are still there. And also the government and the European Union is now aware of that, having like a material passport, so that you have a passport of your building, and that the owner can say, okay, this is the value of what I have here, and this is what I can. So first of all, we shouldn't disassemble the building earlier than it's needed, because it should be up and running as long as possible. But in the case it needs to be done, then we have a passport for it.
If I can interrupt you, because I think that's a particularly interesting area that I have a certain amount of empathy with. I mean, when you talk about the passport, are you talking about blockchain technology in terms of actually managing the resources? Is that something that you see? Because certainly I could see that would be a very significant application of blockchain, which could have significant impact.
Yeah. This is exactly the technology that enables us to do so.
Okay, so we should have a conversation maybe another day on this subject. But can I go to the fisherman community? I mean, I have no idea, but I would assume the challenges of waste and challenges within the seas are a problem for you, as they are a problem for everybody. And I'm assuming that has a direct impact in terms of the fishermen, their nets and the servicing and their ability. I mean, is that something you're consciously looking at? Is that something you can support and help in terms of your work and your application?
We are in a way doing it. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to reduce the empty fishing trips. So this has some impact on, say, consumption of diesel and other inputs like ice and grocery. So in particular, the reduction in diesel is estimated to have, it has averted a huge carbon emission per boat. We did some estimates as well, like say 8.22 tons of carbon emission per boat averted due to these advisories. So another thing is, when the fishermen go for fishing, they don't just get fish catch alone, and they do get plastics as well. We did some pilot on a pilot basis. We did some sensitization among fishermen to how can they bring back the plastic waste from when they catch fish, and how can that be recycled. But it is in a very nasal stage as of now. We need to put a little more effort towards this initiative.
But I think there are organizations that, I mean, there's an organization called Plastic Bank. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the founders I know quite well. And I think it would be interesting to have a conversation with them, because they have an ecosystem looking to support that collection and then redistribution of plastics in particular. And I think that, that could be, again, come back to collaboration. Eva's point exactly is that I think there are opportunities, and the more we talk to each other and the more we share these insights and these challenges, I think the opportunity. Emily, is that something that touches your area? I'm sure that you must come across this in your work.
Yeah, absolutely. As you're talking about waste and any of these like complex social policy problems, there's a principle in complexity, which is the law of requisite variety, which says the complexity of the solution needs to meet the complexity of the problem. So classically, we want to find silver bullets to be able to solve these things. But actually what we need to do is create a really big umbrella, a big tent for everybody to find a home under to be able to solve these grand challenges, and to focus on those collaborations. And that's exactly what motivates us. And what the tool does is then gives the tool for systemic change, is gives all those collaborators insights into how to strengthen their activity in working on these different problems.
And where do you see, where are you looking for support? Is that something, we talk about collaboration, and are there organizations that could help you with this, and are they open to those conversations, or do you have to beat down doors to get that conversation going?
For us?
Yes.
We train people in the framework to support their collaboration. So the collaborations are often already in play, and they're looking for tools to strengthen that work. So we work with governments, we work with universities, we work with teams of social entrepreneurs who are either seeking out and weaving those collaborations through the process of using the framework, or those collaborations are already in place and they're ready to support and strengthen their transition. We are not in the business of solving problems. We are in the business of building the capacity of the social entrepreneurs, of the change makers, to be able to use a new set of tools to strengthen their existing work.
Yeah, I don't agree with you. I think you're also in the solutions business. You just maybe, that will be phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. But let's again take that conversation offline. So Eva and I have been working really hard. I've exhausted all my questions. Well, I'm sure I haven't exhausted my. So I'm going to turn the tables on you three. So here you have 1.5 experts. Eva's the real expert. I'm the one just filling in a gap. But you have 1.5 experts in building and scaling businesses and helping to support this ecosystem. What questions do you have for us? What can we do? What can WSA do to support you in your claim? I mean, you're all winners, so that's one piece of the ecosystem. But what does winning mean, and what can we do as a community to support you in your challenges? I'm going to send that to Wolfgang first.
Thanks for this opportunity. So what WSA really can do is spread the word. So the good thing is we are all digital now and we can spread the word, but we always need ambassadors who really stand behind the topics that we have on our agenda. And the topic is making the world a better place, make it really more sustainable, create better living and working environments, and get rid of old behaviors and get really into a new mindset of dealing with our environment where we live, with our cities, with our villages, and we try so hard of what we do, and every ambassador, if it's in Australia, if it's in India, Singapore, Vienna, London, is so appreciated because though we know that it's we can do a lot of things online, we know it needs the contact and to get to know people, and this is why I'm so happy to have the chance to talk to you all and to meet you all. And if I can have you as a CREE ambassador, I'm more than delighted.
No, I'm very expensive. That's another story for itself. But there are much nicer people on this call than me. But that's a whole different conversation. I'm going to go to India next. What can we do to help you, my friend?
Looking at the application, currently the application is limited only to Indian fishermen, and we also had requirements from. We also had some queries from South Africa, where they wanted similar solution. Probably, though this is currently country specific, we can actually scale it up to multiple countries. So that is one support that we would look for from WSA.
Is that all? That seems too little. I mean, you can ask much more.
That is all. I mean, as of now,
we have Peter on the call. Let me tell you something. Peter and Nora's address book is second to none. Okay, so they have the names of addresses and the email addresses, telephone numbers of all the people you need to connect with. You need to be more demanding, my friend. Think of something even bigger. Give us a bigger challenge.
Sure. Probably, yeah. I think probably we'll try.
I'll give you 5 minutes to think about it. So you need to be slightly more ambitious. I'll come back to you in a second. Emily.
Sure.
Apart from the fact that I want to visit Australia and you don't let us in at the moment, or maybe you're beginning to let us in, I mean, that would be a nice opportunity. But what can we as an organization, what can we as a team of people do to help and support you in your objectives?
Well, just echoing my other two fellow winners, just being part of this community is incredible to add legitimacy to the work that we do. Often in this work, in high impact work, where industries are locked into specific ways of working. When you come with something new and novel, it's a slow burn, and you really have to be tenacious in making sure that you knock down those doors and you convince people. So we, in the beginning of our journey, we were selling the evidence for this way of working, and now we're fortunate to have a big book of case studies to be able to point to. But it always helps to have this global community to be able to have behind you, especially in the digital space, to say that sometimes digital tools are kind of like, well, software is not going to solve the world, but it can really accelerate our move forward to achieving the SDGs with making better decisions and using scarce resources. So back to your point about how you could help legitimizing, creating opportunities for us to really connect, especially around specific issues for scale. So that's our issue at the moment, it's scaling. And working out how to do that, there is so much demand in so many different time zones, and being able to do that effectively and efficiently as we meet the needs that are presenting us, the great opportunities that are presenting us.
Okay, that's really cool. Thank you. Before I come to Eva for some closing comments, I'm going to go back to India. Have you thought of anything bigger, anything more expensive we can do to help you?
Yeah, in fact, we are also thinking of bringing addressing the pollution at the sea level, water pollution and all. So probably some initiative can be supported by WSA for this particular initiative, because though we piloted, as I told you before, we were not able to scale it up for several reasons. We would definitely seek some support from WSA. So because this is going to be a global problem. This is already a global problem that needs to be addressed systematically.
That's much better. That gives Peter and Nora something really to think about. So thank you for that one. That's very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Eva, before I close this session out, do you want to make some comments and give some perspectives on what we've been talking about today?
I just want to say thank you for having me, and congrats to the winners. It's well deserved, I can say now. And I hope that the trophy will give you the opportunity to convince more partners, and be assured that I will be your ambassador. And thank you for this motivating session. It's really needed in times like these, and it's very good to know that smart people like you are all over the world working on smart solutions to tackle the current challenges.
Perfect. My comments are such that I just want to say that I think that we need to look at what I referred to a little earlier in the conversation about an impact audit in terms of quantifiable and qualifiable data to support the work that we all do. I think that ESG is a very important part of this exercise in terms of getting the commitment interactions with government and with society generally. So a strategy around ESG, a strategy around impact. And again, I'm repeating myself, but I cannot emphasize enough that the more data you bring to the table and the more information you can to substantiate what you do, the more engagement you're going to get. Most of the people who have money, who can invest, be them government, be that investors, be that any organization, are looking for data rather than just anecdotes. So anything that can be substantiated, anything that can be qualified, anything that can be demonstrated at scale is particularly interesting for the audience you need to reach out to. And I come back to something I said to Wolfgang a little earlier. One of the things that impresses me so much about his platform is their strategy around education. And I think that applies to all of you. I think you have to assume that the people you want to reach out to do not necessarily understand the problems you're addressing. And the more you can help them understand the impact, the resource, the capability, the results that you're getting from all the work that the three of you do, the easier, well, not easier, I don't want to use the word easy, nothing's easy, but the greater response or the more focused response you're going to get. So I want to echo Eva's comments. I mean, first of all, this has been super exciting. I mean, this is not my sector. It's not my area of expertise. I've learned a lot today from all of you, and thank you for educating me. And it's been fun. So I hope you've all enjoyed it. I hope the audience has enjoyed it.